Welcome to another episode of So It's Not Just Me, where we explore the various factors that impact our mental health and discuss strategies for navigating life's challenges. I'm your host, Joanna, and today we have a very special guest joining us to talk about her journey into the world of sober, curious living. Our guest today has recently embarked on a sober, curious journey and is here to share her experiences, insights, and the reasons behind her decision to explore an alcohol free lifestyle. And with that, I'd like to introduce Carly. Carly, can you tell us a bit about yourself and why you decided to go into a sober curious journey?
Yes. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me on, Joanna. I am a mom to two kids. My husband and I have been together, like 14 years, and we live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And ever since I became a mom, actually the last couple years, I just kept hearing a whisper to cut out alcohol from my life. And whenever I would hear this, I wasn't quite ready and I didn't really understand like what it meant or what it would look like to be sober curious or alcohol free. And I had done 100 days in the past and 30 days here and there. It really was a mindset shift for me to do the entire year and beyond sober curious. And what really catapulted me to make the ultimate decision was I asked myself, how do I want to show up as a mom, as a leader, as a friend? Like, what could catapult me to the next level of growth in my life in all of these areas? Being a businesswoman, a stay at home mom, um, in community, all different aspects. And there were two things that came up, and one was quit drinking. So I followed that nudge. I made the decision, and I don't count the days. I have an app on my phone that has the days on it, but I just focus more on, or less on doing this for the whole year. But now that I'm on this journey, I might do it longer and continue this as part of my lifestyle. So, yeah, I think I stopped December 30th last year. So, yes.
When you say you heard a whisper, was that from other people or just from yourself? Just when you're looking at the bigger picture, was there signs from other people that you wanted to stop or try the sober curious, or was it just in yourself?
It was more in myself. However, whenever I met someone who didn't drink, it almost fascinated me in a way that they didn't think about alcohol or didn't have alcohol at a wedding or a party. They just went about their normal life. And some of the most joy felt people I've ever met were sober people or sober curious, alcohol free people. And so I always had that in the back of my mind as well. But it was more of something within me that wanted to make the shift and make the change.
Okay. So, how do you think your mindset changed from going out and getting a drink when you're out and about, or in an evening when you start trying to relax? How did your mindset kind of go from, oh, I'm going to grab a glass of wine to I'm just going to grab some water or a mocktail, or
I
what kind
love
of is your
this.
new
I
vice?
love this question because I've done so much personal growth and development in the mindset area and in our brain chemistry and creating new neuro pathways because our brain loves a habit. Our brain loves a
Yes.
routine. Our brain loves it when we know when it knows what's coming. And so for me to really understand that my thoughts about drinking or my thoughts about 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., the witching hour is typically my trigger. It was my thoughts around that that were creating my feelings that were driving my actions to either drink or not drink. So instead of putting so much pressure on myself at that 5, 6 o'clock hour at night, I would just make a mocktail. And to be honest with you, it wasn't necessarily the alcohol that I missed. I noticed this in the first couple of weeks. It was more the habit that I had created of making a
Right.
cocktail, making a drink. So I think when people are on this journey or are curious about it, the biggest thing for me in those moments was being so aware of my thoughts. Like, what was I telling myself in this moment that was leading to whichever outcome, I desired.
Has there been like a so my vice is red wine. I love a glass of red wine in an evening, not every night, but especially a Friday when I've had a long week, I would come home and grab a glass or three of my favorite red wine. Um, have you found something that has replaced your whatever your vice was previously that has like really made it easier to adapt the mindset to help with the change?
So I think that word that you said, replace, is one of the biggest key factors in going sober curious, because it is ultimately about replacing that habit, that mindset, that environment, that trigger that may come up when people want to drink or when I wanted to drink. Mine, it was like I just wanted to unwind from the day. I wanted to kind of numb out. My daughter had, I don't even like the word colic. It was way more than that. And it was really severe. And there were days where she would just scream and cry. And I just wanted to shut my brain off at the end of the day. And that's what really created the habit for me. And I too loved red wine, and I loved vodka with seltzer waters and different things that I would make at the end of the day. But replacing that with a mocktail or something else in the moment, a meditation, going on a walk, changing my environment, paying attention to my thoughts, just doing something else, replace, or sitting with my feelings. Like, this was a hard day, this was a hard moment, but you know what? Hard days and moments, they all pass. And I have a choice in this moment of how I want to grow through this and show up as my best self and keep the commitment to ourselves. That's another thing about like our brain and our neuro pathways and how we develop trust in ourselves is if we say we're going to do something and we continuously show up and do that, whether it's get up early and work out or go for that walk or not eat chocolate every night. If we do what we say we're going to do, it creates trust within our brain for ourselves. And then it creates confidence too, because we're actually doing what we say we're going to do. So I know that was a long winded answer, but I think it's like
No, it's
there's so
good.
much to unpack there that it can look a couple different ways.
I really like the idea that you don't have to replace as such the alcohol with another
Hmm.
drink. So, like you touched on there, going for a walk, exercising, sitting with yourself. I know that I've mentioned on previous podcasts, and I'll probably mention them on every single podcast I do. Journaling.
Hmm.
I find sitting with my feelings helps a lot. Writing down how my day's gone, and where I would usually pick up a glass of wine. I'm not saying I'm currently not on a sober curious journey. I'm on a reduce my intake journey, especially with the fertility treatments that we've got coming up. We're reducing alcohol because we don't want to cut it out completely just yet, but it is something that we are, me personally, more than my husband, but it's something we are considering. But that's why we've brought in journaling and writing down our feelings and thinking, do I really need three glasses of wine? Is one a cut down enough for now? Is that all I need just to take the edge off rather than waking up on a weekend with a hangover? Because that's the biggest thing that I find is when I do drink, even if it is just two or three, I'm wrote off for the weekend. That's it. I'm done. I'm a waste of space. There's no point me being anywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
same. And I always thought that alcohol helped me sleep, and it helped anxiety, and it helped um, calm me down or relax. And what I've noticed is it did the opposite. Alcohol did the opposite. Maybe in that moment, those first 10 minutes, that first 30 minutes, I felt more relaxed, but then over time or over the course of the night or in the evening when I woke up the next day, that anxiety sometimes I just,
yes.
yeah, I didn't like it. And to go back to your journaling, one thing that I found that really helped was listening to this 6 minute meditation that I love and then doing a brain dump afterwards. So it's kind of like journaling in a sense. It doesn't really have to make sense. So that's been a cool aspect of the journaling for me too, because I typically will write down what I'm feeling in the moment or things that come to mind. But doing a brain dump, I've noticed really helps get everything out so I can be
Yes.
fully present afterwards.
Yes. I think that's one of the big things as well. Did you find any challenges that you've had to overcome, whether it be explaining yourself? Do you feel like you have to explain yourself to people all the time when you're being offered a drink, or was there any negative that you got from people?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say if anyone who's listening is curious about this or wants to go down a path that's anything in life that's going to help you grow or make you a better person, if someone has something to say about that, it's really more to do with them than it is you. So don't let someone discourage you because of something they may see in the mirror that's going to, hold you back from stepping into something that's going to elevate your growth. So, that being said, I have not had anyone who has said anything negative to me at all. In my mind, I've said negative things to myself because I feel like alcohol and being sober curious, there's so much gray area on this journey that before I would think about alcohol as black and white. You either are someone who doesn't drink at all and you never really have, or you're someone who goes to jail, goes to rehab, hits rock bottom, is on the corner of the road with a brown paper bag. Rehab and jail and mistakes and things that have happened, not saying it's right, wrong, good or bad, just the mindset we have in America about drinking. It's very black and white. So there was a lot of negative mindset and self-talk that I had to work through. Like, oh my God, if I tell someone I'm sober curious, are they going to think I was drinking on the way to pick up my son from school, or that I started drinking first thing in the morning, or that I was blacking out every night? And none of that was true. I've met people in various different um, situations and circumstances when it comes to drinking. And I think there's a lot of shame involved in the beginning when I say I wanted to be sober curious. So I really had to approach it with myself from a very empowering place, not a shameful place. That's what really helped me. So, to answer your question about the negative feedback, it's only been from myself, and that was very early on in the beginning. Never been a person who cares what other people think, but this situation really, when I started peeling back the layers and looking at things that I had to sit with this, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I was just very much aware of what came up when it came to this journey. But no, I don't hold back from sharing. If people ask, I'm an open book, and if my story can help anyone else's story out there, then I'm here for it. And I also think that I did join a Facebook group with other sober curious women. And when I first went in there last year, I looked at some of the stories, not from a judgment perspective, but just a curiosity perspective. But one thing I noticed my brain saying was, "Oh, you don't have a problem. You're not drinking and driving. You didn't get a DUI. Your kids are safe." Because I would see other stories and I would compare my drinking to other people's drinking. However, my rule of thought is if you're questioning your drinking or you're kind of like, maybe I should or should, if there's any sort of like loop in your mind that's questioning it, then that's your journey of self reflection and figuring it out. I know some women who don't drink at all during the week, and then on the weekend they drink to excess, and they've had to
Yeah,
reevaluate that. So, um,
more like binge drinking kind of
yeah,
thing.
or like don't know when to stop, or have three and they're feeling good, and they're in two more, and then the next day, their Saturday's a wash. But it's like a personal journey, I think, to each person. That's one huge thing I've learned too, is it's not all black
Yeah.
and white. There's a lot of gray.
And I think this is, again, I've said this on previous podcasts I've done, and I'm probably going to say this on every single one. This is why I called my podcast So It's Not Just Me, because you might think that, I'm not flat out drunk, I'm not blacking out, I'm not drink driving, but you have got that thought in you that's you have to do something. And I think too many people are scared to try and do something because they think they're going to have a negative response when there's not, because there's so many people going through the same kind of thing. Again, that's why I called the podcast So It's Not Just Me.
I,
because there's so many people going in this, and if just one person hears somebody's story and that can help them grow or develop or seek help if that's what they need or just support, then we've done a good thing,
yeah.
in my opinion.
Absolutely. I love that you called it that because so many times we think we're alone, and really society has told us all along that, oh, drink to unwind. Oh, you had a hard day, drink. Oh, you just delivered your baby. You bet you can't wait for alcohol. It's so ingrained in our culture, and like the mommy wine
Yes,
culture. It's not anyone's fault. It's an addictive substance, and you can be an amazing person, businesswoman, mother, and still get caught up in using it to deal with emotions or situations, things you might going through, and then that can turn into a habit. That can turn into. I mean, it doesn't have to be like I said, black and white. I think we go into it thinking that, but there's so much gray here.
yes, yes. I know that Kyle likes a drink, so he doesn't drink to excess. It's not a big deal. The amount I'm not worried about the amount he drinks, but I also know he'll drink and he thinks it helps him sleep. I can already tell you, he may be asleep. He is not having a good night's sleep. I know he's not. I can hear him all night long. There's no way he's having a good night's sleep. So it is very, like you say, you're convinced, it's drilled into you that this is what you need to do. And there's a reason why food is so cheap when you go out. Not always cheap, but restaurants make their money on alcohol. That is the biggest thing. The food they make a bit of money on, but the alcohol they buy in cheap, hike up the prices, and that's where they make the money. So that's why everyone thinks that, everyone needs to drink. It's drilled in
I
there.
know,
And if you're not the one drinking at the table, there's something wrong.
I know. It definitely is ingrained in our culture that way. And like I said, it's not anyone's fault if they land here or with something else when there is substances that are addictive that we can get
Yes.
our hands on. So, yeah.
I know I've been out for dinner a few times over here and back in England. And if I haven't had a drink with me, I've been asked, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" And that's something that you think, well, I don't. There doesn't have to be something wrong. I just want a glass of water tonight.
You know what's funny is
So
I've been that person. I haven't necessarily asked what's wrong, but I've been the person who's because I'm genuinely like, wait a minute, you don't drink? Like it's fascinating. It was fascinating to me. Or I would, you know, I'd never pressured anyone into drinking or anything. I just was always very curious and like, oh, you don't drink? Like, why? Just because I tied like something had to have happened or they were pregnant. It
yes,
just but again, these things that I've been unpacking for myself, I have realized that when you're told something over and over and over again and you hear the same message over and over and over again from society, it's becomes ingrained in us. Like it's normal to drink.
yes.
That's what we all think. So, yeah.
One of mine was I'm the eldest of me and my sisters. I'm the eldest, and I always had in my head, if something happens and they need a big sister, I'm no good if I'm drunk.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if we went out, I'd always be the designated driver. I'm happy to do that. My sisters don't really drink anyway now, but I was always designated driver no matter what the friendship group was, because if something goes wrong, I want to be able to help. I don't want to be the one who's like, "Sorry,
Yeah.
sort yourself. I can't be there."
And when I first started this journey, I started to look for evidence to back up myself that like I obviously was not drinking first thing in the morning or driving my kids to school, but all these things that I was like, what are people going to think? Like, are they going to think I was doing all this? And my son broke his arm one night, and this was before I made this decision, and I hadn't had anything to drink, so it wasn't like every single night at 5 o'clock I was pouring something, or But same to what you're saying, it's like there have been moments where I have thought, wow, what if I was drinking? What would I have done in that moment? Or
Yes.
so that's another reason when I started getting curious about things. um, I was like, you know what, it's more about me and what I'm doing with my life and who I can inspire versus what other people may or may not think about this decision. Because a lot of times people are really busy thinking about themselves and they are what I'm doing or what we're doing. So they're not, sometimes people aren't,
It's like that thing where you go to the gym and you think
yeah,
everyone's watching you,
they're
and they're
not.
not. It's the same kind
But
of
our
thing.
brain likes to
People
protect us from all of the noise
yes.
and all of the what ifs, and our brain is constantly looking for like an exit strategy or what's going on. And again, it
Yes.
goes back to our thoughts. If you can really examine what you're thinking leading up to a drink or any decision, and then you notice how that makes you feel, that feeling is going to drive your action or inaction. That's been the best hands down way that I've had to look at this and now a lot of things now that I've learned that.
Have there been any, like, huge benefits that you've found by not just, being a bit more alert or anything, but is there anything else that you found that, has changed since you've been, like, embracing the sober curious lifestyle?
I actually I have found a lot more joy in the mundane moments than maybe the moments that I was trying to escape from or be over with really quick. I've just slowed down a lot, but as far as like big I the biggest one is I don't need alcohol. I'm actually a lot more fun without alcohol, honestly. I'm a lot more I went on my first vacation. I started a new business. I mean, I think replacing that time that I would spend drinking or thinking about drinking, that's another thing. I was not good at the mind mental gymnastics that came with drinking. It was like, okay, I'm not going to drink during the week. Wednesday would roll around. I'd be like, oh, well, I had a hard day. And again, the thoughts. I'm having a conversation with my brain. Thoughts would come up. Well, I've had a hard day. I deserve a drink. Just Wednesday. It's midweek. Whatever I'm telling myself in that moment, and then I would pour a drink. And so by the end of last year, I was like, the amount of time my brain spent thinking about alcohol or drinking or only drinking on the weekends, it just freed up so much space to think about other stuff. It's like I don't even think we've been out all day today. Never once did I think about a drink. Whereas before last year, I've been like, well, can I drink tonight? What time are the kids gonna go down? It was just mental gymnastics. So I think the biggest thing for me is the freedom of my brain. Just yeah, not
No, that's
having
good, that's great, that's what you need,
yeah.
and I'm gonna assume that your mental health has just
So
become so much more. Yeah.
yeah, so much more patient, so much more grounded, getting up early. I used to tell myself, okay, I'm going to get up at 4:45 today, especially with kids. It's the only really time I get for myself, and I would never do it. Now it's so much easier. There's just so many ripple effects when I made this decision, and I think the drama leading up to making this decision was way worse than just making the decision and being on this journey now. It was like the mental drama of like, oh my God, what am I going to do on vacation? What am I going to do at the wedding? What am I going to do here? And it was like, I created all these scenarios in my head that hadn't even happened yet. And there was no freedom in that. Yeah, it was just more thoughts.
I'd never heard the term sober curious before you started talking about it, and I don't really know if I've heard anyone else other than yourself say it, and I think it's a really, really good term to use because it is curiosity, like you said, and interest more than anything. It's not, sobriety as such. It is curiosity, and I really like that term. I don't know if many people had mentioned it to you the term before, if that's something you researched and found.
So over the last couple years when I started getting curious about this, I started reading what's called quit lit, like quitting alcohol, like personal development, but in the sober curious space, alcohol free space. I like the term sober curious and I like the terms alcohol free because again, I think when we say we're sober and there's nothing wrong, which you don't even have to identify as like sober curious or sober, it could just be re-examining what feels best in your life. I like the term sober curious because it is a curiosity thing for me. How am I going to feel this year? What's going to happen this year? How am I going to grow? So I was very curious about it. And I like to say alcohol free versus I don't drink. I'm just alcohol free at the moment. It is a term that has been used in a lot of like the quit literature. So I had seen it a lot prior to this, and I had seen other women on this journey. But I just like how it approaches it with a curiosity mindset versus like I am sober. And I do know some people who have had real addictions to certain substances or alcohol, and they are truly like sober. Sobriety is a way of life for them. So for me, sober curious sounds good.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. I find if I'm trying to quit something, I bully myself if I don't stick to it. Whereas if I'm learning about something and being curious, then
Mhm.
if I do slip up, as they say, or if I do have something that I'm not wanting to have, it doesn't matter because I'm not quitting it as such. I'm just changing exactly how I'm doing things, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes so much sense. And again, one of the biggest things that if I could stress anything, it's whenever we do something that we're not proud of or that we say we're not going to do, there is there is no long-term change when it comes to shaming ourselves. We can't shame ourselves into change. We might shame ourselves into change for a week or two, but that loop is going to land us right back where we left off. So for me, it was like a real empowerment thing, getting really excited, thinking about who I wanted to be in 6 months. How does she show up? What time does she get up? What kind of mom is she? What kind of friend is she? And replaying that tape in my head coming from an empowering place. And I've never ever woken up and been like, wow, I wish I drank last night. But there have been plenty of times in my past where I've woken up and been like, dang, wish I didn't drink last night. So even just playing that
Yes.
tape forward um, helped a lot. I think for me, it's been a huge amount of mindset stuff and really understanding how our brain works in regard to habits and triggers and routines and things like that.
Have you thought about what your future may look like? Are you living it day by day, or have you thought about what your journey may look like on the sober curious journey, and if it's going to evolve or anything like that?
So one reason why I was hesitant to start sharing this journey openly, I'm a firm believer that if I can help one person in any area of my life, I'm going to speak up and I'm going to share and I'm just going to openly like we did our fertility journey and so many other things in my life that I've openly shared because there are people who have gone before me that have shared that I'm like, "Oh my god, thank you." However, when it came to me sharing this, I was like, what if I drink again one day, like after the year was up? Because that's originally what I had set out to do was this whole entire year, no drinking. And I was like, well, what if I drink again? What if I open a sober curious group or help these women and then I end up drinking 4 years from now? And that really brought me back into this moment. Where am I today? And how did I make this decision to impact my life for a year? So to answer your question, it's more of a day by day thing, but I'm fully committed 1000% to this year. And I think if I think ahead, I'm going to continue on this journey for a long time. I would if I've also, I'll just share this with you guys since we're talking about it. I've never really been a person who can have one drink. I don't need six, but I'm not just going to stop at one. It could just be two for the night,
Yes.
three, but I was never someone who would just have one drink. And then I was always fascinated by that too. I'm like, oh, they only have one drink and then they move on with their life. What? Like, I need two or three. If we're going to drink, we're going to have a drink or two.
Do
So
it
I
properly.
do at some point, maybe I have no idea, want to see if that's even possible. But then again, I feel so good right now. I've learned so much about alcohol and the body and our mind and different things that you, I don't think I will. And I want my kids to grow up in an environment where drinking is not quote unquote the norm to do every day or every weekend. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there because I really like the journey and the path that I'm on right now.
That's good. Do you this is probably going to be my final question, I think. Do you have any advice that you would want to give somebody?
If you are contemplating being sober curious, there's a few things. if you're someone like me who got caught up in a habitual cycle of drinking each night, or maybe you're someone who drinks on the weekend and you're really reevaluating the role that alcohol plays in your life, just know that there is no shame in any place that you've gotten to on this journey. It's an addictive substance. We're told it's completely normal. We're told it's the way we handle our problems. And we're told it's the thing to do at any event to make the event better. And there's a lot to unpack there. But I would say reach out to other sober, curious women. I did that. I would ask them questions, and to the women who were there who supported me and answered every question, even at 3 in the morning about this, thank you. And I would say definitely find yourself a community of sober, curious women, people that you can lean on. Personal growth and development. Invest so much in yourself that you know why you're doing this, and personal growth and development that can look like listening to audiobooks on this, learning about the brain, learning about habits, and why we think the way we do. But I ultimately think it boils down to those things, and also replacing alcohol with something that's going to catapult your growth, replacing it with something that is going to help you as a person grow uh, to the next level that you want to be in your life.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, as always, everything that we've discussed today is going to be available online. You can download the podcast, you'll be able to get it online, and on YouTube. And on the website, we do have different documentation that can help you if you want to start journaling, if you want to learn more about personal growth. We will be developing a brain dump spreadsheet as well that you can use, and this is going to be available to download or a hard version, whichever you'd like. Um, so, on that, is there anything else you'd like to add as a final thought?
No, if you need to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. I'm happy to be a support system or answer any questions that maybe you didn't ask on this podcast. Or if anyone, they can email me. However, I can help. I'm here to do so.
And I'm sure that Carly's going to be here again, hopefully, if I can sweet talk her enough so we can pick her brains on other things as well. So, for anyone who is listening, is here today, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you did find some interest in the discussion today. And again, if you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.